One of the easiest ways to increase your FICO scores is, if you have revolving debt on credit cards, is just pay off those balances. Let's say you have a Bank of America Visa card and you have a $5,000 limit, and right now you have $4,500 charged on it. Well, one of the simplest ways to boost your FICO score is to just write a check to Bank of America for $4,500 and pay off your credit card. Okay, not everybody can do that, and I understand that. That's why I was saying that a little facetiously, that yes, that's absolutely one of the best ways to increase your credit scores. However, not everybody has the funds, especially in this day and age, to just stroke a check for the full amount to write off on a credit card. So there's another technique you can use if you aren't able to pay off that credit card balance. By the way, guys, I also want to share with you, there is a certain percentage of your revolving limit that you should be using on your credit cards on a monthly basis. Here's why. The FICO scoring model rewards you if you're using your credit responsibly. Now, there's lots of ratios and lots of numbers and percentages that have been thrown out there. I'm going to tell you what I found that works for myself and for my clients. Typically, you want to keep your revolving balance to about 3 to 7% of your total limit. So I'll give you a good example. If you have a $10,000 credit limit, okay, the old information, the old guys would say, well, listen, you want to be using 30%, maybe even 50% of that revolving credit, because that shows a credit bureau, shows a credit card company that you're using their credit, they're making money off you using that credit, and you're paying your bills responsibly. Well, no, guys, the FICO scoring algorithm, it dings you, or it hits you negatively, impacts you negatively if you have too high of a revolving balance. Matter of fact, when you pull your credit scores from myfico.com/12, there's a section in there that talks about your revolving limits your balances are too high to your limits. What that means, you have that $10,000, and if you have, $7,000 or $8,000 or $5,000 of it even, you're getting close to the limit on that card. You want to keep it to 3 to 7%. Now, I know some months that's not always going to be possible, because we're talking about, you're saying, wait a minute, Mark, $700, how's that work? I need these cards more. That's where you want to get to. Again, we're talking about getting your scores as high as possible. I know that sometimes something will be coming up during the month where that revolving balance will go up or down. Well, here's one of the easiest ways to have the FICO scoring algorithm work to your benefit. Increase your credit limits. Okay, I know that sounds simple, but here, walk with me through here. We'll go through this a little bit. Let me share this with you. If you have a $10,000 balance on your credit card with Visa at Bank of America, you simply call them up. And again, this only works if you have not been late on any payments in the past 6 months. And by the way, late means not late to the bank, not late as far as the credit bureaus are concerned. If you pay in under 30 days, you don't get reported late. So you have to pay on time. If your payment's on the 15th, it's got to be on the 15th, not on the 17th. And you can't have gone over limit on your credit card. So if your balance is $10,000, you can't have charged over that. So what you do is you simply call the customer service number. After you go through the identification process, you just say, listen, I'm doing some traveling this week, or we're getting ready to take vacation. I have the family, we're trying to make a trip out to Disneyland. And you say, I'd like to increase my credit limit. Now, if you've been a good customer, you haven't been late, and you haven't gone charged over the limit, typically they're going to grant you that increase. Now, they'll say, well, what would you like the increase to be? I always like to ask for at least 100% of what my credit limit is. So in this case, we'll use the $10,000 credit limit. I'd say, well, I'd like to have a $20,000 limit. Now, they may or may not, again, we're in a real kind of perilous environment with the banks, they may or may not grant that 100% increase. But 9 times out of 10, they'll grant you a 50% increase. And by the way, I always recommend to my clients and colleagues and students is that every 6 months, you should be calling your credit card companies to get those limits raised up. Okay, guys, that's how you get those higher credit scores, by having larger credit limits. It doesn't cost you anything, and here's where this works. Here's the secret in this. By you getting the approval to raise your credit card limits, you've changed your ratios now. So again, in our scenario before we called them, if we had a $10,000 credit limit and we had $5,000 charged, we'd be at 50% of the limit of our credit limit. You guys understand that? All right, if we increase that up to $15,000, we now have gone from a 50% utilization down to 33%. Okay, that instantly changes your FICO score. Sometimes anywhere from 15, I've seen it go sometimes as high as 40 and 55 points for some folks. So again, it's a free way to get your FICO score up. And by the way, you're also doing this long term, because you are building those higher credit limits along the way methodically every 6 months. That's how you get those $20,000, $25,000, $50,000 credit limits, and that's how you get into the 800 club with the FICO scoring model. Now, word of caution here, guys, just because you get that increased limit doesn't mean you go out and buy a flat screen plasma TV the next day. Okay, you've got to work the numbers and work the system. You're getting that extra balance, that extra limit to try and help your credit scores, not go on a shopping spree at Best Buy when the circular comes out in Sunday's newspaper. So something to think about, something to use. Works very successfully, and you want to be doing that anyways. Again, I just caution you on going out and trying to use that extra credit that you have. That's not free money. Now, sometimes the bank may deny you, and that's fine. You have one of two options. You can wait, call back in another 30 days and do that, or sometimes I've even had students hang up the phone, call and get somebody else on the phone, and that other person will give them the credit limit. A question I get a lot is, well, Mark, okay, if I call the bank, won't that show up as a credit inquiry on my credit report? And you've said that credit inquiries are bad. Yes to both questions. It will show up as an inquiry, but since they're already doing business with you, it's not an inquiry for new credit. It's more what's called an account review or a soft inquiry. Much like when you pull your own credit reports, it doesn't show up as a hard inquiry and you don't get penalized for it. Well, when a credit card issuer or any other bank or institution that you're doing business with already has an account with you, when they pull that, it's a soft inquiry and it doesn't affect your credit. Obviously, they're going to look at your scores, but you're already working on developing and getting good scores anyway. So, again, you can't be late, you've had to pay it on time, and you can't have any over limit. And if you have the good scores like we're talking about, you're going to get that credit increase. Okay? We'll see you next time. Mark Garcia, CrushingTheCreditBureaus.com.